Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Matt Porter for those of you who don't know. The last time I left you, I had just finished repairing the radio on my Mustang, fixing actually the backlight for the LCD, and we were successful, which is always a great feeling. And I think it was either in that one or the video before I had mentioned that I've got a FM modulator to install, and I kind of had it in the video just kind of roughly mounted just to test it out. But what this thing does, this thing's really cool. So it mounts in line on the antenna, so between the antenna on the car and the antenna input on the stereo on the head unit. And what it does is it modulates an FM signal to give you an aux input, like a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, which seems to be pretty standard on most cell phones. I think the iPhones are a little bit goofy. You need like a adapter to get one, but a lot of the Androids out there seem to still still have one. But it's really cool. It lets you play music that you've got on your phone, whether you have like an MP3 collection or you stream through like YouTube Music, iTunes, something like that. And it's really simple to hook up. When I did my testing, I had it hooked up in 5 minutes. I spent more time uh, rigging up like a ground connection for it than I did actually, doing anything else. But what I'm going to do today is just kind of permanently mount it. And I think I've got some ideas that I think will work pretty good to where it won't rattle around, it won't be loose and flopping and stuff like that. So we'll get started with that, and I'll pick back up here in just a few minutes. All right, guys, so here it is. I actually ended up picking up this thing off of eBay. I found some on Amazon that had some pretty good reviews and stuff like that, but this one was like a third of the price, and it actually came with, the adapter to take it from RCA to the headphone jack, and it actually has, that as an output. And then the input, this goes into the back of your stereo for the antenna, and then this actually connects to the antenna cable, and then of course just a couple, power and ground, and that's it. One thing to note is you see right here, there's two FM channels that it's kind of, sorry for the focus thing, that it's actually going to try and use 87.9 or 88.3. In my particular case, the 87.9 worked better than the 88.3, but it just kind of depends on maybe where you're at, what radio stations might be near those. And you can actually toggle, you can kind of see it there. There's just a flip switch, to toggle between the two stations. But honestly, I mean, it's got an extremely simple hookup. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is try and get this in and mounted neatly, and then I'll just kind of show you guys what I've done. Alright, so what I ended up doing here is I just used some like sticky putty to mount this to the underside of the radio. Alright, and I left it to where the aux RCA cables come out on the passenger side, and I still have access to the frequency switch, so I don't have to like flip it around and stuff like that. It's still relatively easy to get to from barely pulling out the radio. And then they included like 4 foot on each power and ground lead, so I trimmed it down. I left plenty just because there's gonna need to be some flex if I ever need to pull this out or anything like that, but I left enough just in case I had to lengthen it for whatever reason in the future. So that's cool. For my ground, there's actually like a little bracket, console bracket on the back, that I'm gonna just kind of use this connector for. And then you may have seen in another video, but I'll show it again. I've got a tap onto one of the power wires that feeds the radio, but it only feeds it with key on, so it doesn't try and kill the battery. Luckily, something like this probably doesn't use too terribly much current anyway, especially when it's not in use. So, having some basic connectors installed are a good thing. If it was something a little bit more powerful than that, more current or something like that, I probably would have soldered these together and then use some heat shrink or something like that. And then of course here are the antenna leads, in and out. Luckily one of these is just going to come right here, so I could probably just kind of tie off some of the extra wire. But like I said, I left the aux input on the passenger side, and the adapter just kind of sneaks, out underneath the side of the console really well. So if I wanted to, I could tuck this back behind the console so nobody sees it, and then when I'm using it or something like that, I just kind of draw it out. And it's got quite a bit of length. I'd probably say this was 3 feet or so. Maybe, I think a lot of times when they measure these cables, they go metric, so it's probably about a meter or so. But that's that. I'm gonna get it into the car, and I'll check back with you guys here in a minute. Alright, so I've got it just kind of set into the car a little bit here. You can kind of see, let me get a flashlight, you can kind of see, that's where I kind of tap the ground. Like I said, it doesn't have to be fancy because it's not holding, a ton of current. So I'm not too terribly worried about that, and I've tested it and it did work good. And then I've got my tap right there. So this ends up being on this connector, so the inbound connector of the 2 connectors on the stereo, and it's the yellow and black wire. That one, through my testing, only has power on it with the key on, so that would be the only time that you'd be able to use it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is get this pushed in and everything, and we'll do a test and see what happens. Alright guys, so I've got it put in, tested. I don't want to take the risk of actually showing you the test because, the whole copyrighted music, I don't want to get in trouble and have to deal with whatever BS that might be, but it does work. You may have to turn the volume up on your device, so your phone or whatever, turn that up all the way, and it'll actually help with the stereo, so you can actually use the volume on the stereo to kind of tweak it some more. But it is installed. I'll show you. So right over here, that is the aux cable. So everything's just like right behind there, and there we go. It sticks out. I managed to hide everything to where the radio still sits in there pretty good. I noticed, it's kind of loose, but I think that's just because of like all the plastic, being kind of old and, stuff like that. But yeah, I've got that done. That's kind of nice to have done, buttoned away, and stuff like that. I did forget to mention, I don't know if I mentioned this in any of my other videos, but the car hadn't been licensed since at least 2017, since before I got it, from my family. But earlier today, this past Tuesday, I got it licensed. It's legal. I can drive it now and cruise it without actually having to worry about, having 4-year-old expired plates on it. So that's kind of a little bit of a victory now too. I can cruise with some good tunes legally without getting in trouble. But anyway, that's all I got for now. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. Don't be afraid to give me a subscribe or a like or even a dislike. If you leave a dislike, at least tell me why. Tell me some feedback. Leave some comments. If you have any ideas or suggestions, feel free to let me know about that too. But with all that said, we'll see you in the next one. Hope you all have a good one. Take care.